I'd like to call the Municipal Planning Commission regular meeting February, let's see, I don't even know what today is.
16th.
Thank you. February 16th, 2016 to order. First item on the agenda is the prayer and pledge. Mayor Carroll's going to say the prayer for us.
Please bow. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this great community we live in with such great people. Thank you for the opportunity to come together and serve our community and serve with a great board. Please be with us tonight as we make the decisions for the city. May they be blessed by you. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item number 2 is approval of the agenda.
Second.
Have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Number 3, citizens' comments. Okay. There are no citizens' comments tonight. Thank you. Number 4, approval of the minutes, 4.1, January 5th, 2016, special called meeting.
Second.
We have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 4.2, January 12th, 2016, regular meeting.
Second.
First and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Number 5, recommendations. 5.1, discuss and or take action on rezoning application for property located at Drag Strip Road from CI Commercial Interchange to RM8 Multifamily Residential, map 18, parcel 006.00, 21.5 acres, Imogene Clement Peary, owner.
The recommendation from the board was it passed.
Okay, the recommendation from the board is that it pass.
PLC, yes.
Thank you.
First reading. Right,
No, sir.
that's second reading.
Second reading.
Okay.
5.2, discuss and or take action on rezoning property located off Cox Pike, Polson Place 2, from RS20 to RS20 PUD overlay residential, map 21, parcel 61.06.
That passed on first reading. It's moved on to a public hearing and the final vote.
Thank you. Number 6 is bonds. 6.1, Western Woods Village, performance bond to cover the roads, sidewalks, and storm drainage, $155,300. Planning Commission set the bond on February 12, 2008. The bond was reduced to $106,000 at the February 10, 2009 meeting. The bond was reduced to $80,240 at the February 12, 2013 meeting. Bond expires March 14, 2016.
Madam Chairperson, that bond is in place.
The bond is in place. Thank you. Number 7, old business. There is none. Number 8, new business. 8.1, discuss and or take action on rezoning property located at 2652 Fairview Boulevard from RS40 residential to CG Commercial General, map 69, parcel 32, 1.1 acres, Gary and Glenda Jaworski, owners. Do we have anybody representing?
Here.
Move to approve.
Second.
Can we read the
Oh, yeah.
engineer's comments, please?
Yes, ma'am. Engineers' comments, item 1. The proposed land use map designates this area on the west side of Fairview Boulevard as RM, which is medium-density residential. As such, any proposed commercial rezoning would also require an amendment to the proposed land use map. Item 2, the subject property is bounded on 3 sides, north, west, and south, by parcels that are zoned RS40. The subject parcel, as well as parcels to the west and south, currently have single-family dwellings on them. The parcel to the north is home to Fairview Elementary School. There are approximately 6 parcels in the vicinity of the subject parcel on the east side of Fairview Boulevard that are zoned commercial general, including a parcel directly across from Fairview Boulevard. The 6 commercially zoned parcels in the area include a convenience gas station, offices for a construction office company, a child care facility, a hair salon, a multi-tenant commercial building, and a self-storage building. And item number 3, it is important to note that if the subject parcel is rezoned to commercial, that there will be some potentially limited physical development restraints in the form of increased building setbacks and buffers as a result of the subject parcel being adjacent to residentially zoned parcels.
I have a first and a second. Any discussion?
I have some questions.
Okay.
Do y'all have anybody particularly looking at this?
No.
Okay. One of my concerns with this is how many residential that it's surrounding. I know it's a lot of commercial mixed use, but my fear when we rezone something like this and it's surrounded by so much residential, then, you know, as far as once it's rezoned commercial, then they can come in and put anything. And that is always a concern when you have, you know, so many residential neighbors. So I just was curious if you had a contract or somebody interested.
This is purely for the future.
Future.
And the neighbor beside me also is interested in her property being rezoned commercial too, so that's the.
Just a corner lot.
That's the
Right.
corner
Yeah.
lot.
Right.
Yeah, that would be almost something that I would rather see the neighbors come together. I mean,
Yeah.
it can come together, because once you start doing that, it's just, you know, difficult for these people, even though realistically, we know Highway 100 is going to be the area that will be desirable for commercial development. But once you start doing that, you're pushing your neighbors out too. And so that's my only concern of it. In other cases, you know, we've seen in the community, people advertise potential commercial, and then you could always come up and, you know, rezone. But to do it, then it just ties our hands to, if it has the correct zoning and they meet all the building codes, then that's, you know, how it goes, and it doesn't matter about your neighbors, you know.
Right. And I, I completely understand that. But at the same time, when we first moved here many, many years ago, it was adequate for residential. But in my own opinion, now, it's really not. Yeah, I mean, you know, the privacy is, there is no privacy.
Traffic.
A lot of traffic, the privacy issue as far as the residential quality and, you know. And I'm just looking at it as hopefully in the future it will be a benefit to the community, because I'm well aware of all the houses about to be built, and so you're gonna need, you know, places for these people to shop and eat and all the other good things. So hopefully, my property will provide that, so.
Well, and, you know, this is a question that we have a lot, is because anybody has the right to have their property or request their property to be rezoned. And that's, you know, obviously why you're here today. But it's hard when you're trying to look at the whole future growth of the community and considering that there's so many residentials, it's, you know, where it gets
Right.
difficult as
Right.
a board. But that's all the questions.
Absolutely.
I just wanted to know if you had anybody.
Any more discussion?
I think I just say, I think I tend to agree. It's right there next to the playfield for the elementary school. With the setbacks from residential, it's gonna really push and limit your availability and usage on that. I think you have 100 foot on every side that boundaries are residential. And so I would rather see it where if you joined with that property or your property, come forward and say, here is our plan, here's what we want to build, and we can kind of get a better picture of it as we see it, rather than, here's commercial and we'll see what happens. you know.
Right. I completely agree because I have been in this community for a long time, and so I care about it too. So I don't want to see just anything go there.
Yes, ma'am.
I wanted to see a benefit to the community as a whole, and so if it can provide that, that's what I want to do. And so now I have spoken to my neighbor, and she expressed interest in doing so, to have it rezoned, and I said, well, let's see what they have to say with me, you know, applying, and we'll go from there. And so, I mean, I think, you know, we both agree that we love our properties and we love our houses, and we wish we could take, you know, that and move it, you know, to a quiet, you know, so unfortunately, can't do that, so, you know, just hopefully it'll just serve the best use of the land, so.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Hey,
5-2, motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
8.2, discuss and or take action on revised development plans for Meeting Place Assembly of God located on Highway 96, map 41, parcel 46.17, 3 acres, zone RS40, owner, Church Meeting Place Assembly of God. Anyone here to represent? Mr. Butler, would you like to read the engineer's comments, please?
Yes, ma'am. Item 8.2, engineer comments. Number 1, the revised pond location indicates a pond discharge point that is significantly closer to the adjacent property boundary and poses a potential risk of overwhelming the stormwater conveyance that the discharge will be directed towards. It is suggested that the site plan be revised to include a drainage swell from the pond outlet pipe to the receiving conveyance to accommodate the newly created point source discharge that is directed towards the adjacent stormwater conveyance. The drainage swell should be approximately sized to accommodate the anticipated maximum pond discharge amount. Please note that if the swell is not installed at this time, the city will monitor the site during the 1-year bonding period, and if channelization is observed between the pond discharge and the adjacent receiving conveyance, the swell will be required to be installed prior to releasing the bond.
Do you have a motion? I have one major concern about this. Why this pond was moved in the first place from the original plan.
The pastor, we started grading out there this summer, and we were getting material to build the pad up, and the first place to do that is out of the pond where you're gonna put the pond in. And the pastor saw where it was located, and asked if we could move it some to create more of a play area right behind the church. And we scooted it down a little bit at that time while we had all the equipment going.
But you do understand if that could become an issue with your neighbor if there's any type of overflow of the water.
Yeah, we thought we were doing it where it would work, and I think it will work now that the engineer has redrawn it in that spot.
Do we have penalties or fines or anything in our system for something like that? Like we had to send our engineer out for expenses or to look at it, to come up with what he thinks is best and incur expenses for their change. Mr. Hall?
Bill, can you answer that point?
There is no direct penalty or revision to a plan
During the process and
during the process.
Is your pastor an engineer?
Pardon?
I am not. The revised plan is an engineered stamped plan. I don't know about the field changes, I can't validate them, but the revised plan that does reflect the current field location of the pond has been stamped by a licensed professional engineer. Those plans also include, the revised plans also include calculations. And those calculations indicate that the 100-year storm event, the discharge from the 100-year storm event will be cut in half from what it currently is. Once the pond is installed. So conventional engineering calculations indicate that the detention pond has been designed not only to the current standards, the new detention pond to your current standards, but far exceeds them as well. So if the pond was brought to you today as the first time you've seen it, it would meet all your standards. Yeah, it was shifted, and that's why it's back before you, to have that shift approved.
But shouldn't it have come before us before the shift was made?
That potentially. The biggest leverage that the city has, not only on this side, but any other side, most sides, which would be considered most side, for this discussion purposes, is that the city can withhold certificate of occupancy if when we do a final as-built inspection, it doesn't comply, or it doesn't match what the approved site plan shows. So that's where the direct penalty of withholding occupancy of that building can come into play if the builder, developer chooses to deviate from the approved plan without seeking approval, then the city would withhold that occupancy certificate until they remedy the issue. And that might involve a revised plan being submitted to the planning commission and approved. Might be a minor modification that could be approved administratively. And those thresholds are outlined in your zoning ordinance. It's not an arbitrary decision on if it's a minor change or not. And based on those thresholds, this change would be defined as a minor change. Not meet the threshold of a major change.
And I believe the owner doesn't have a problem submitting an as-built prior to getting a CO in the project, showing that it does meet the new plans that were submitted.
That's a requirement on all sites, so.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. but
Okay.
That's what we require anyway, of all commercial industrial building sites, as built are required.
Will, you said that with the pond as it's revised here, in a 100-year storm, would cut the flow in half.
If I recall correctly, and the design engineer can correct me, but I believe the pre-developed runoff towards the apartments is somewhere around 10 CFS, cubic feet per second. Post-developed, after routing through the detention pond, is somewhere around 5 cubic feet per second. Year storm, as designed by the licensed professional whose stamp is on the plans. And the requirement in your regulations is that the post has to, or can't exceed the 3. So technically, the pond could be sized exactly right, but for rough purposes, it could be half the size that it's currently designed to be and still meet,
With all that being said, I'm going to make a motion that we approve the amended site plan, but with the contingency that the drainage swale be installed.
Second.
One final thing, the site inspection did also reveal another excavated area, the existing pond and the highway. This site does not reflect that to be a finished grade excavation. So based on the site that you have before you tonight, that excavated area between the pond and the highway, we would anticipate seeing that field back to redeveloped grade.
Is there still room for the buffer trees that were requested on the backside with that new retention pond location? And we took out quite a few trees making this new location. But I know we had discussions about, no?
Yeah, we did have discussions with the tree commission.
Our city arborist felt there was a few that were in the protected area that were removed.
Yeah, from what I remember, and I may be incorrect, but the area that they moved the pond to, I don't think there were a lot of trees there. Unfortunately, where most of the big trees in this area were where the building was. And that area back in there was pretty well devoid of trees. Now, there is sufficient area around it to add some more landscaping if it's required.
I think the tree board requested buffer on that backside, so it
Yes,
should already
they
be
did.
required as part of what we voted on.
There were
Yes.
no trees at all removed from the
Okay.
pond. None.
But I think what you're requesting, correct me if I'm wrong, is that you want to continue that tree line that was where the original pond was and where it stopped. You want to continue it all the way down to where the new pond is and past that. Is that correct?
I just want to follow what the tree board presented and was voted on, where they added that buffer on that backside.
Okay.
Does there need to be amendment to the motion for what you are saying, or you're saying they will bring it back up to standard? Is it?
I'm just saying, I just wanted to make the owner aware that the plan that is being approved tonight, as shown, indicates that that hole, for lack of a better term, will be filled in and graded back to pre-developed. If that's something that if they desire to do something different, then they need to speak now, or we would be.
No, that's our desire. That's not a problem.
So no amendment needed. That's what the
Okay,
plan shows,
gotcha.
that's what's going to happen.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Again.
Number 9, reports for discussion and information. Director of Planning and Codes, Mr. Hall.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. I'm going to yield to Ron Rowe. He's got something he'd like to tell you all about this afternoon.
Good evening. The Tennessee chapter of the American Planning Association is having a winter retreat at Montgomery Bell State Park on February 25th and 26th. I've got some handouts here that I'll give you when I'm done. I joined the American Planning Association a couple of years ago, so I get these emails and updates, and I've attended one or two of these, and I would encourage all of you to at least go on a Friday. It's a Thursday and a Friday. It's very beneficial. If you went to both Thursday and Friday, you would have over 12 hours of training. You're networking with other cities in Middle Tennessee. You'll meet attorneys, planning people from other cities. You create a network where you can talk and bring up your problems and see how other cities have handled it. But just to give you an idea here, on Thursday, they're going to talk about Tennessee tiny home trends. I don't know if you've seen it, but there's a trend towards these little tiny homes. It's a guide for planning and codes review. Then there's also a Ready Creek Bike Trail, multi-jurisdictional alternative transportation plan from Kingsport to Blounteville to Bristol. Well, they just give you the concept and they explain how they're doing it. There's a good one here at sign ordinances. And another is learning about regulating adult-oriented businesses. And then they'll give legislative updates that what's going on in Tennessee, how it affects the planning and zoning. I know right now there's legislation in there to up on the zoning board to 5 hours of training versus 4. And I would say if that happens, it'll probably spill over to the Planning Commission too. On Friday, it's got some really good stuff that they're talking about. Ethics for planners. I sat in on one of those, and it was very interesting to listen to not only planners, but some builders are there. So you'll pick up a lot of things. I think we went to a seminar a year or two ago, and they dealt with ethics too, and you can never get too much information about that. Another is event venues in rural areas, inclusionary zoning, Metro Nashville's experience, temporary rentals to regulate or not to regulate. So it's kind of full. They have meals, dinner, breakfast, continental breakfast. So it's really nice. I would encourage all of you to go. So, and then here's the registration form if you're interested. So, thanks.
Thank you. Anything else, Mr. Hall?
I've got something I'll say on the city manager.
Okay. 9.2, City Engineer, Will Owen.
I don't have anything.
Thank you. 9.3, City Attorney, Mr. Cantrell.
I have nothing further than that, Madam Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. 9.4, City Manager, Wayne Hall.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Just a quick grant update. The Roadscapes Project, the beautification of Fairview interchange at Highway 96 and 100. The pre-construction meeting is scheduled next week. That is about to come to fruition after all these years. So I just wanted to
Good
inform
news.
you of where we're at. Thank you.
Number 10, Communication from the Planning Commission members. Mr. Dowdy?
I have nothing further.
Mr. Mitchell?
I have nothing, Madam Chairman.
Mr. Lohman?
I have nothing, Madam Chairperson.
Mayor Carroll?
I just wanted to comment to the board. That's some of the issues I think is going to be coming up more and more with the people wanting to rezone on Highway 100. So I just encourage you, as this comes up, to really look at what's around it, because, you know, in my mindset is, if I was the neighbor, you know, and I wasn't ready to sell my home, or if I backed up, because once we rezone things, it really does change. You know, if they meet all our requirements, then it's done. It doesn't matter what it is. And so, if it meets within the zoning. So with that being said, obviously, a lot of people are going to be here for a question and answer session. Thank you, Brandon, for coordinating that. I think it is still going to be taped and airing on Channel 19. So welcome any questions, and I encourage everybody to take the opportunity to come to the actual town hall meetings that we hold as a Board of Commissioners. That's it.
On the months that have 4 Thursdays.
Yeah.
They're always on the 4th Thursday, if a month had, I'm sorry,
Or 5.
5. Every month has 4.
I know what you
I
mean.
meant 5, okay. Every month that has a 5th Thursday, we have a town hall meeting, which everyone is welcome to come to. Mr. Mangrum?
Nothing tonight, Madam Chairperson.
Mr. Sutton?
Nothing tonight.
Mr. Butler?
I just appreciate everybody coming out, and I look forward to hope we can have some positive discussion tonight.
Okay, I feel the same. I'm glad we have a good crowd tonight. I'm looking forward to it, and I just want to encourage everybody to look at all the new businesses in our community. We've had a few in the last month that have, opened their doors, and just shop First in Fairview to support your community. Thank you. Do we need a break before we start?
Need to adjourn the planning commission.
Close it.
Oh, okay. Okay, the Planning Commission is adjourned.